All right, so this is our first episode of the 607 Sports Show. And today we're going to start with Coach Matt Raleigh and Jack Hopko, Bryant Carptenter, and Michael Mancini from the ME Boys Varsity Baseball. So, Matt, let's start. Just tell us your background. I'm not sure everybody understands like what you've played and the level and where you've come from and stuff. Talk about
I grew up in the state of Vermont. I was fortunate enough to go to Western Carolina at a high school. Went down to Western Carolina and had a pretty good baseball career there. I was a Division I All-American, led the nation in home runs, all-time home run hitter there.
We got to stop for a second. Led the nation in home runs. I just want people to hear that. I kind of flew by that.
My senior year, I did lead the nation in home runs with 26, I think it was, 25. It's been a long time. I was fortunate from there to get drafted by the Montreal Expos in the 14th round. Went on and played some professional baseball, played for the Montreal Expos, the Detroit Tigers, the Florida Marlins, the Baltimore Orioles, the Colorado Rockies. I played for 5 or 6 different organizations. And then went on to coach about 10 years professionally with the Florida Marlins. And, it was about my 9th or 10th year, whatever my last year was. I remember calling my wife, like, how are the kids doing? How they hitting? And she was trying to tell me how they were hitting. And I was like, it hit me one day. I said, I'm done. I'm going home. And I couldn't be away from the kids any longer. So I came back here and kind of wasn't looking to get into any coaching, but Maine Endwell called me and had an opening in softball, and I said no, and I said no, and then I finally said yes. And to be honest with you, it's the best thing that I've ever done. I got a chance to coach softball and coach baseball at Maine Endwell, and it's been a great ride.
And how'd you guys do in softball?
We won a couple back-to-back state titles.
Back-to-back state titles. You guys are very subtle.
Very
you guys
subtle.
are picking this up.
Yeah, they did well. Had some great athletes. Let's just say that we had a really good group of girls that were just phenomenal, dedicated softball players. And then after that, my daughters left, and then Gary Crooks, who was at Maine Endwell for 30 plus years, was retiring, and Dave Cook asked me if I'd take over the baseball program. So it was kind of a perfect storm for me because that's when I got to see my kids play. So if I was still coaching softball, I would have never got a chance to see my boys play, which was an easy decision for me.
I got to ask you, when you were drafted, was it the time where you had to play 4 years of college ball?
You could get drafted in your junior year when I was in college, yes.
So they couldn't touch you your first 2 years,
First
right?
2 years.
Okay. So did they draft you your junior year? Did you?
Well, no. See, that was a funny thing. The numbers that I had. I joked with my college coach. He told everyone I wasn't going to sign if I got drafted. But I had numbers that go in the top 10 rounds for sure. It didn't happen. Best thing ever happened to me. I'm glad I didn't. I would have got a little more chunk of money. But what's that matter? 30 years down the road, it was a perfect scenario for me to finish up my degree, finish up at Western Carolina, and then go professionally from there.
Okay, and then you played the different levels.
Yep, I played single A, double A, triple A. Played for the local Binghamton Mets. Still hold the all-time season home run hitter there. I think it was 37. I was really, really close to going to the big leagues. They actually called me and said I was going to the big leagues the next day. That phone call never happened. They were trying to trade me, but I had a couple of injuries right after that prevented me from going all the way up to the big leagues. But like I said, everything works out for a reason, and it landed me right here, and that's what I'm doing today.
Since we're on video, just hold up your hand for a second.
It's bigger than Sonny's. It is.
6'5".
Yeah.
You shake Matt's hand. You don't shake it. He swallows your hand. That's kind of cool. So that's quite a run, though. And now you have, in addition to coaching, you have your business.
Yep, Raleigh Baseball Institute. I've been doing that for 25, 30 years now.
You work with
all the athletes, softball, baseball, from all over, a couple hours radius, college, pro, little league, boys, girls, so it's a wide range, but that's been really good too for me.
And when you were coaching in the minors, I think with the Florida Marlins, you won a little title there?
Yeah, we
throw that in there.
I did win a World Series with the Florida Marlins. Got a World Series ring. Now that one was, so you talk about the hands, I actually have the largest World Series ring ever made. Because it's a size 17 and a half. So they actually put that on my note, sticky note, when they sent me my World Series ring. So yeah, I got a chance to coach some, Miguel Cabrera, Adrian Gonzalez, some guys that are just Hall of Fame type materials. And you take all the stuff that road that I've taken for all those years, and you just try to give back to the community.
Yeah. It's great. It's nice to be down there too, and you see everybody. You see all differently. The kids over here. Just the other day, there was probably a 4 or 5 year old. The bat was bigger than him. He was swinging, and you were working with a kid from on softball, and they were throwing in the other area. It's a pretty neat place. So talk a little bit about Maine Endwell and baseball.
It's a great program. It's been a great program for many years. It's one of the better programs in the area, and it starts at the Little League level. Obviously, our Little League programs had some huge success here. Obviously, a couple of these guys over here were a big part of that. But even to the kids that weren't on that team were just as a part of it, because the community has set high standards. Our parent involvement is outstanding. Our facilities are outstanding because people in the town care. If you get a kid, 9, 10 years old, and you get a dream, anything can happen, right? You find passion in a sport or passion in anything, and you go out there and there's a perfect storm. Will that ever happen again? I would say no, but we would love. That's what you dream for, and it's baseball's been good around here. Softball's been good around here. It's been Section 4 has been strong. They represent the state very well year in and year out, and it's a good thing.
So let's go back like 2 years ago. I remember because I was partly involved, but baseball was starting, and then we had March 20th, 2020, and now we've got the world in topsy-turvy. We don't know what we're doing, so they shut everything down, right? You want to talk a little bit about going from that to then having an abbreviated season last year?
Yeah, so if for our high school program, it couldn't have hurt a team more than Maine Endwell. We had a chance to do big things, which we still do. But you're talking about my 2 strongest teams I probably have ever coached were those 2 years where we didn't get to finish the season. Last year we had a great team. We won our last game, but the last game was a sectional game, not a state game. So the year before is where I thought we had a really, really good team, all the pieces that you want, and we didn't get to play it all, which kind of stinks. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But, it's the hand you're dealt. That's life. So for these guys that were part of that before, it gives them an opportunity to say, well, I got a chance this year. Let's see what we can do. We're going to have some Section 4, it's going to be a tough run this year. There's some teams in our section that are gotten a lot better, and it's going to be a wide open race.
Okay. So now that so last year they had a sectional final, but obviously they didn't have the state tournament. So
Right.
What are some of the things that you've talked about with your guys this year and things that you're looking to try to do?
Well, obviously, you can't do anything unless you win sectional. So that's your first and foremost goal. And I think we're going to have our hands full to do that as, every year. But I love the kids that I have. I love the work that we're putting in. I know UE has got a couple really, really good pitchers this year. They're going to be extremely tough to beat. Vestal is, I think in another year, Vestal's going to be super strong. They could be strong this year as well. I just don't know what their pitching situation is, but I know their 10th grade class is very talented. And sometimes 10th graders step up and play a big role in varsity. So Vestal could, have a big mix in this as well. It's usually the only 3 teams in it is Johnson City's in it as well. So I apologize. Every year you don't know what you're going to, you have injuries, you have some guys that start off hot, and, sometimes just the confidence in could go one way or the other, and that could determine someone's season. The high school baseball season kind of stinks in a way because you got 12, 14 games, and, if you get hot for a week or two, you're going to have a good year. If you go cold for a week or two, you're going to have probably a rough year. So, I guess.
Speaking of that, talk about, because this season is starting in the normal high school season, which typically starts in some kind of brutal weather.
It's brutal right now. I mean, it's 37 degrees out there right now. It's not baseball weather.
It's
Yeah,
got a little
snow.
flurries.
It's terrible. And then I look, the whole week is not warm. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's upstate New York, and that's where we live, and it kind of stinks. I was like, grew up in Vermont, and it was worse than this in a way. But, you know, we have to make do. We have a great field.
Mhm.
Sometimes a great field kind of hurts us a little bit because they want us to play those games when everyone else's fields are too wet. You know, it's tough to play in 35-degree weather, 38-degree weather, and you got some of these kids who want to go on and play college. And, you know, coach will call, hey, how'd your first game go? It was 0-4, but I had 8 shirts on and 2 gloves. You know, it's hard to play baseball. It's just not baseball weather. So,
Right.
and you don't want guys to get hurt.
Right.
Hopefully the weather turns here and we can start getting into some kind of routine. I mean, we're dying to play. I'm dying to play. The kids are dying to play. And I'm sure that's not just Maine Endwell. That's Johnson City, Vestal, Binghamton. Everyone wants to get out and play some games right now. And
Sure.
it's going to happen here soon.
So talk about what are the things that you prep for, knowing that, okay, weather is a little dicey, you know, what are some of your plans as you kind of step forward?
Well, you know, we kind of lucky we could practice at RBI, which is much better than practice in the gym, in my opinion. We have 4 batting cages, 3 mounds, fielding area. You know, there's certain aspects of the game that, you know, like live hitting, we know going into the season that we're probably going to be a little behind. Pitching should be ahead early in the year. You know, it's tough to build our arms up inside versus outside. So whenever we have a chance to throw outside, you know, you can throw, 40 pitches inside, but that's like, it feels like 75 pitches outside because your arm's not used to it. So, right now it's about trying to get their arms in the right health, strengthen their arms, take care of their arms, and then get as many swings as we possibly can. On a typical, our last practice we had, I would say the average kid got 200 to 250 swings, which is extremely amount, a lot of swings.
That's great.
And, with the coaching staff I have, we're lucky to go right through and get that many reps. So when you surround yourself with good coaches and, the things that we want to do, we've been pretty fortunate with that.
So talk about like with your team, every team has like an identity, right? What do you think, or if someone says, yeah, we watch MU baseball, they're good at these things. You can tell that that's their strength.
Every year is different, right? Every year is different. And you try to coach my team to their talent versus them learning my style. But there's one thing that we try to do is we've always been a good hitting team. Year in and year out, we always had a couple really good pitchers. We run the bases extremely well. We're a very aggressive team. So when I look at what I want people to think is we can play small ball, we can play big ball, we can go big time pitching, or we can go big time defense. For the last 5 years, I think it's fair to say that at any given day, we could have broke out any part of that. We could at least show flashes of each one of those parts of the game.
All right. So looking forward this year, so you talk a little bit about your goals. So, are you looking, you said, start with obviously sectionals. You don't want to go too far, but you think
you get this team, this team, and you get this Section 4 baseball has been great. You get out of this area. Vestal won a state title a couple of years ago. Maine Endwell's won. UE's had a few. So you get out of this section, and baseball is represented very well throughout the state. So I'll take my chances. If we can win this section and go to the states and see what happens. I think if we're in that position, I would give us a chance. We did it a couple of years ago. We beat a team that was extremely good out of where were they out of?
Lakeland.
Lakeland. Yeah.
That's Section 1.
Yeah, they were unbelievable. But we prepped for that, and we found some holes in our game that we took advantage of. And we beat a kid on the mound throwing 94, 95 miles an hour. That's just unheard of in high school, right? And so we take a lot of pride. I got great coaching staff. I got great players. They make great adjustments. They believe in what we teach them. And when you have kids that believe in what you're doing, you can accomplish a lot of stuff. So as far as how far we go, I mean, ultimately, I think Maine Endwell has set the standards high every year as a state title, right? That's what you go for, and that's what we're going to go for. But we know we get our hands full to get out of the section this year, and that's a great challenge for them. It's a great challenge for us, and we look forward to seeing if we can get out of the section.
Okay, let's. Why don't you? Well, before we get to the guys, because I want you to talk a little bit about each of these guys, but couple of them are definitely playing in college. Bryant, I'm not sure.
He's going to play.
I'm hopefully playing in Pitt Community College.
Okay.
I'm talking to the coach there.
Perfect.
That's where I'm going to college. But.
So talk a little bit about what do you think your role is in helping some players get either college exposure, get some colleges interested, working with families. Talk a little bit about that to someone who doesn't know, has kids.
Well, I got Coach Tiddick on my team who does a great job. He, for Jack and for Michael, did a lot of recruiting for them. Both of them, they called me a lot as well, but Dave was the one behind reaching out to a lot of schools, talking to them more. And I have some great connections down south with my brother and some of the people and just where I used to go to school. But it's not, up here, it's just extremely tough. It's tough for coaches to come see it. During COVID, these guys were both recruited or during COVID times, and a lot of it's video. And I know if I'm a college coach, a video is great for me to go out and see someone, but I would never sign anyone until I saw them in person. That's just me. And I think both of them were seeing it live as well. But there's a lot of schools around the country right now that are just doing video commits, and I don't know, but the COVID situation obviously had a little logjam for college athletes, and it's one reason why my son's in a prep school right now, and down south where he is, he has a chance to get seen every day, versus up here to be once a year.
Well, the other thing that hurt, right, is the college kids. Oh, now you got an extra year, so now you're planning on your classes, and now you don't know if the kids are staying. Then you got the portal, and you got everything. Yeah, it's kind of a little tough.
College has changed drastically in the last 3 years.
So let's introduce. Let's start with Michael.
Michael Mancini. Obviously, he just signed to go to James Madison University. He's been a 4-year starter at Maine Endwell for the last 4 years. He's a senior this year. Plays middle infield. Was a great pitcher. Could possibly pitch at some point in his career again. One of the best curveballs I've ever seen. He was a part of the Little League World Series. He's going to be a big leader on our team this year.
Okay.
Next to him is Bryant Carptenter, senior right-hand pitcher. Had a great year last year for us. Finished the season as our number 1 pitcher. Pitched a great last month of the season for us. We're expecting big things out of him, and obviously he's going to try to go to community college and play next year, which you won't find a nicer person on how he goes about his business.
All right.
Then Mr. Hopko, Jack, signed at University of Rhode Island. Like the most power you'll see on any kid in high school that I've seen in a long time. This guy hits moonshots when he's not trying to hit them, especially. There's a little jab at Jack, but he's
a little subtle. He's very subtle. He's subtle.
Jack had a tremendous fall with his travel team where he hit like 8 home runs or something, and all the pitchers were throwing like 90, 95. So the kid can play at a high level. We're expecting big things out of him in the middle of the lineup, and all 3 of these kids, you couldn't ask for better families and better kids and better role models, and they're great. So the 3 people I have up here today represent Maine Endwell very, very well.
All right, so let's start. Let's talk to the fellas a little bit here. So I'm going to ask you. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Coach. Here's your shot, Jack.
Yeah. All right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Coach Raleigh?
Yeah, I don't think there's a better coach to play for in high school. Playing for him the past 4 years, it's just been an unbelievable experience. Him and our whole coaching staff knows the game more than any coaching staff you'll find in the Northeast, at least. So, it's just been great to play for these guys, and I'm excited for this year. So it should be a good run, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, Bryant Carp.
I'm going to agree with Jack. I don't think there's a better coach in 607. I think our whole coaching staff is one of the best you'll ever find. I think they care about each and every one of their players. They want everyone to succeed. And they've shown me that through all 4 years that I've played. Whole coaching staff, and Raleigh's best coach I've ever played for.
Michael.
Adding on to these two, I think Coach Raleigh does a great job, and not just teaching the fundamentals, but teaching the game and how it's played. There's a lot of guys that come in and I know me especially. I thought I knew a lot about baseball. And the first day of practice, we're going over like bunt defense, how to bunt, like just the little things that you don't think add up. add up tremendously. And like he said, when we played the guy throwing 90, 94, I mean, we bunted 3 or 4 times to win that game. Most coaches aren't coaching them. Most coaches aren't adding that down to the littlest things, and that's what Coach Raleigh does, and that's why we've been such a successful program.
All right. So Brian, talk a little about what are some of the things that you have that are on your mind going into this season, things you want to accomplish. Talk a little bit about yourself and then talk a little bit about your team.
I mean, for me personally, I just want to continue my season from last year. I think I ended extremely strong, and I just want to get back out there on the mound. I want to play. I want to get out there and I want to compete. I want to hold teams down. I want to let my defense play as well. If people need to hit the ball, let them hit the ball. I know I have a strong defense behind me. I'm not afraid to throw strikes this year. I think we have one of the strongest defenses I've ever seen, and that's what I want to get done this year. Hold teams down.
So as a pitcher, you talk a little bit about your approach. Talk about maybe how your approach was previous to how it is now. You talk about maybe being a little more aggressive. Talk a little bit about what you think your approach is going to be.
I think when I'm up there on the mound, I know I've played for a few teams where the defense is not as great as on Emmy. Emmy has one of the strongest defenses I've ever played for. All my travel teams, all my other teams. I think when I get out there on their mound, I have no problem having confidence with putting the ball over the plate. I think I can control my stuff if I need to put it over the plate and let the defense handle it. That's 100% this year.
Okay, and your pitches. What's your menu of pitches?
I have a 4-seam, a 2-seam, changeup, and a curveball that works occasionally.
Works occasionally. All right. You need a strikeout. Counts 2-2. What's your go-to?
2-2. I'm probably going to go with my changeup. I know I got command on that.
Yeah.
My changeup, I can get it down low in the zone. I can get a little bite on it. I know a batter might be able to bite at that, and I don't know if I'd go with my curveball in that situation.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: 2 years ago, same pitch, same
pitch.
scenario.
Same pitch 2 years ago.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, Jack. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Let's talk a little bit about you're part of that World Series championship squad. Talk a little bit about that. Wasn't your dad was helping coach and Mike's dad is helping coach?
Yes.
That might be another story. But let's talk a little bit about your dad helping out. So talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I mean that's incomparable. I mean, there's nothing really you can put next to that and say this was a better experience than that. So I mean, obviously, like me playing in the state championship game my freshman year was another great experience, but I don't really think anything compares to that. I mean, just getting to be there with the international teams and seeing their cultures and playing on the biggest stages any 12-year-old kid could play on, it was just a breathtaking experience. So.
You guys, what was fun to watch with you guys was actually the press interviews afterwards. I got to be honest with you. And I couldn't believe it. You're right about 12. I was like, these kids are 12 years old. I know 32-year-old people can answer those questions. And you were brutally honest, too. Like, I remember someone talking to you, Michael, for 20 minutes about all this stuff, and there was a compliment, and your response was, thank you. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what you said. It's like we're not having a diatribe here. But so Jack, so going from that experience, talk a little bit about the international, because I know some of the stuff, but I don't know a lot of people understand. You're playing ping pong with Japanese players. I mean, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, when you get in the Grove, it's like basically a gated like dormitories, and so we shared a bathroom with the Japanese team. So that was just like something that you'll never get to experience anywhere else. So it's like you walk in the bathroom and you look across and you're like, that kid's from across the world. And then you walk outside and there's like a rec center where there's ping pong, video games, all sorts of stuff. So just bonding with those guys and learning the things they do in their everyday life. I mean, you're not going to get that anywhere else.
So you're 12 years old, and things that are important at 12 are probably not what they're important at 18.
Yeah.
So, but how did you guys communicate? How did you get, because you said you connect. How did you guys connect?
Yeah. So, I mean, connecting through games or through sports and through ping pong and stuff like that was one of the things we did. But we also used Google Translate on our phones to figure out each other's names. And I think at the beginning of the World Series, didn't they give us name tags too, or something like that? So like you would walk around, you would try and pronounce their names, they'd try and pronounce ours. So I mean, eventually towards the end, we would learn some of their language, they'd learn some of ours. So we became pretty good at communicating with the international teams by the end of the 2-week series. So it was a pretty good experience, I would say.
So statute of limitations is up. So who were some of the teams that the coaches didn't want mixing? Is there anybody who was a little careful about kind of kept their team a little separate? Anybody?
I would say the South Korea team was definitely.
I kind of heard that.
Yeah.
As a statute of limitations are up, you get in trouble. So
Yeah, we actually didn't. That was the one team that we really didn't communicate with at all. I mean, the only time we really even saw them outside of their dormitories or not at the practice field was basically in the dining hall. Like we sat right next to them, and they're very like dedicated and strict about their eating habits and stuff like that. Like they'd all sit down at the same time, take their hats off. So I mean, we were just a bunch of 12. We were screaming and yelling at the table.
like you should. That's what 12-year-old
Kid, being a kid.
Yeah, being a kid, exactly. I mean, and then
That's why you guys probably won.
yeah, exactly. So
They were
yeah,
bowing to their coaches after they ate their meals.
I mean, it was crazy to see what the things are like across the world, but I mean, it's also something that you learn from. And you're like, you're not going to be like not expecting that when you go across the world. Say you travel for business or something later in life. I mean, you'll respect what they do, and everyone has their own ways. And it was a pretty cool experience to see that stuff.
I'll tell you one thing that reminds me of when you guys won that game and you take that lap, you guys motioned to those guys to join you, and they were froze.
Yeah.
You could tell that they were like, we want to, but we don't know if we're allowed to, kind of thing. Did you kind of feel almost like a little sympathy for those guys? I mean, because that's such a difference.
I mean, yeah, I would say definitely felt sympathy for them, but I mean, at the same time, it was something that we were striving for. I mean, we were extremely hard to get there, to get to that position. So winning it was an amazing experience for us, but we also didn't want to leave them in the dust. You know, like we wanted to bring them with us. I mean, because they worked the same amount of time we did just to get to that position.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they were definitely disappointed at that time, but we wanted to make them feel just as accepted as us. So it was a good experience.
All right. So you go from that experience. Now you're a freshman, you're playing for a state championship. Talk about how that morphed. Did you go back and say, well, I did it on this stage? Did that help give you some perspective?
Yeah.
Or was it completely different?
Yeah, I think it's similar in some ways, different in others. I mean, playing in front of that stage and all those people at the World Series at 12 years old was definitely something that we learned from. So, I mean, you're not really going to play at much bigger stages than that. So playing in front of crowds is something that, I mean, all of us have become used to, and I don't think we get affected by that. So, I mean, playing in the state championship my freshman year was, I mean, obviously another great experience as being that young. So losing it, I mean, it was something that we can learn from, and it's hopefully going to pay off this year. So we've been kind of blocked out the past 2 years of any opportunity. So hopefully we can pick it up this year.
Coach talked about that. What was it like missing the season?
Yeah, and it's obviously just sucks for any athlete. I mean, it's something that you work all year for, and then to have that taken away from you is just something that's not a good situation to be in. So we worked all extremely hard throughout the winter and the off season to get to play, and then they say one day, oh, you're done. So, I mean, we found ways to get work in and just keep preparing for seasons, but obviously not playing in live games was something that definitely all of us missed. So it'll be fun this year, and I'm sure we're going to have a pretty exciting run.
So from that year to last year, you know, you guys, because to me, to win a championship at any sport at any level is a big deal. Because you've, like you said, you got all the preparation. Now you're on that moment, and some people shine and thrive, and some people shrink. So talk a little bit about last year. You guys are playing for the sectional championship, and you had a whole season washed out. Did you put more pressure on yourself? What was it like approaching that game?
I think there was less pressure because I think we had nothing to lose. I mean, if we lost that game, we knowing we wouldn't have the opportunity to go play for state. So, I mean, obviously there was some pressure because not playing a whole entire year and then coming back and starting your season is something to think about. I mean, it was a hard situation to be in. I mean, but we worked hard and we were prepared for those games. So I think we showed what we could do last year, and hopefully it'll come around again this year.
All right. So Carp, I want to ask you about going back to that because you pitched that sectional final, right? Was that the first time you pitched against UE last year?
I don't believe so. I think I pitched.
You had them
I think
earlier?
I pitched a game earlier in the season against them.
So now talk about what was your approach now? Championship game, missing a year prior. What was your thought process now going forward?
That game going into it, I think we were all a little excited. I don't think any of us were really nervous. I knew UE was going to be a good competition. I knew they were going to be one of the toughest teams to face that year. But I think once I let up 2 runs in the first inning, and I think that shook me a little bit, but I got back in the dugout, I shook it off, and I got back out there. I think we answered with a couple more runs in the first half, and once we started hitting, we got on a roll that game. I think Mike hit one out off weight, and I think they took him out shortly out after that, and that's at that point I had known that was it. Game was over. They're rattled. Their best pitcher's off on the mound. He's not out there anymore. He's not performing well.
And he had a lot of success against you guys.
Yes, he did. Prior, he did. But that game, we had lit him up. We had absolutely smoked him.
Threw 1 hitter against us first game.
Right?
Yeah. I think it was, would we lose 3-1 the first game?
Yeah, something.
3-1 the first game. And I think after that, I think I had all confidence in my team. I think it was, we were out there. I was just out there to throw strikes at that point.
Okay. Now, do you play other sports too, Brian?
I do not.
Okay. Baseball?
Just baseball.
Okay. So how much do you spend off season working on baseball?
I'd say a good amount. Say a good amount. I played for the high heat program for a while, and they did. It was about every Sunday. I'd be out there every now and then on a weekday. I know prior coming into this in the wintertime, me and Billy Dundon would come into RBI. We'd be throwing some bullpens to a couple catchers, and we'd be working hard, getting ready for the season.
So what's your aspirations? What do you want to do?
I mean, I would hope to play baseball in college. I'd absolutely love to. If I can get in on the pit team, that'd be amazing. I hope I can go as far as possible with that. And then that's about it.
So you want to pursue, yeah? Okay, great. Academically, you got thoughts of what you want to do at school?
I'm going for a building construction technology program out there. So
Building construction technology.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. That's cool. So tell me, what's that about?
It's all about building construction, building codes, all that kind of stuff. I know throughout the whole program down there, we're going to be building a full house, full unit during my 2 years down there. And it's going to be fully operational. And then the school sells it to somebody. And that's how they make their money through the program.
It's pretty cool. That sounds like real life, man. Could you just come more programs like that? All right. So, Jack, talk a little bit about college because I know you're going to play.
Yeah.
How did that all happen?
Yeah, so obviously having COVID the past 2 years, it was hard to get exposure and get recruited from coaches. But I was lucky enough to speak to a few coaches and playing in the PBR Prep Baseball Report. They had a future games event my sophomore year, I believe, in the summer of my sophomore year. So that was just before COVID had happened, and they brought the video out for coaches to watch from around the country. And after speaking with coaches and visiting, I decided that University of Rhode Island was the best place for me. So it's about a 5.5 hour drive east of here. So
It's beautiful up there, though.
yeah, it's a really good
Beautiful too.
Yeah, that too. That was
Hell
a big part of the decision for me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really nice area on campus. So I felt like I'd fit in the best there. And so I'll be playing probably first base and outfield there. So playing at that level is something I've always dreamt of, and it should be a fun 4 years. So
Cool. All right, Michael, let's take us back to where Jack took us to. Talk us a little bit about the Little League. Now, you were one of the people we saw a lot more of, a little bit more of the microphones in your face often. You were the one that said thank you when they asked you the 25-minute question. Talk a little bit about just that experience going into it, because I know that you guys had talked about we want to play, start here and finish here. Talk a little bit about the whole process and the mindset going into that.
Yeah, well, the year prior to that, we lost in the regional quarterfinals to the team that went on
I remember that. Yep.
to lose in the World Championship. So having that experience definitely helped. I mean, you follow the next year, you get to that regional where you play on ESPN, and it's not as much pressure. It's kind of, you take it back to you are just 12 years old, and it's just about having fun. And I think our coaches stress that a lot. I think the year prior when we were not playing as well and we lost that Redland team, we were kind of just in awe about everything, and we were kind of stressed and didn't play to our best performance. But Coach Hopko, my dad, Mr. Raleigh, Scotty Rush, they all just kind of taught us that it's a game. It's a kid's game. It's not meant to be stressful. It's not meant to be so wound up. You're supposed to go out there and have fun. And growing up with all these guys, I mean, every single kid on that team, we grew up since we were like 4. So it made the game a lot easier. It didn't feel like a game. It just felt like you were having fun with the friends you grew up with.
That's interesting because that was the comment that you could tell that you guys were playing a kid's game like kids, and I thought the coaches were great. Like in the press, what was cool about those press interviews was always Coach Rush, and then sometimes it was your dad, sometimes one or two, and then it was the players, and they asked questions, and the coaches just let you guys talk. They didn't talk for you. They didn't explain what you said after the fact. Well, what he meant to say was, they just let you guys do your thing. That's a lot of trust. So just talk about that culture, because that has to take some work on their part to put that together.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Definitely kudos, especially to Coach Hopko. He was the one kind of telling us, you just talk about your team, you talk about, your success, maybe some failures. They taught us how to talk like an adult as a 12-year-old, which obviously it's tough to get through. I mean, still some mistakes here and there, but I remember there was one question they were asking Ryan Harlaus. They said, who do you think is going to win, next game, you or the pitcher you're facing? And, Mr. Hopko was kind of just like, he's 12 years old, ask him, a different question. So we definitely had the support. We knew that, with the coaches behind us, we weren't going to, say anything wrong. And I think that's what made us kind of speak freely and kind of say what's on our mind.
So when they walk up to you on the field and there's a reporter and it was ESPN, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they stick that microphone in front of you, what was your first thought?
Honestly, God, you really don't even think about I'm talking about
Michael
ESPN.
remembered how good looking those
Exactly, yeah.
He had a really good looking girl that yeah, so you get to know Michael. Yeah, so I just had to throw that in there. Plus, Michael loves the microphone, so don't let him fool you.
All right, so she's appealing.
Deserving too.
But what was your so your first reaction was, okay, she's good looking, right? Your Twitter followers, right? Didn't that thing explode?
Oh, his Twitter went to like 1.4 million.
So talk about it, because that's another level of success that some people really struggle with too.
Yeah.
There's that's a double-edged sword. So talk about how that happened. So now you're famous. How's that work out?
Yeah, I mean, everything happens for a reason. The year prior, I was the one with the shake-off that got me millions of followers for the wrong reason. So you learn from experiences, obviously. The next year, I always had to make that same mistake. You understand those cameras, what they can do, good and bad. So you're always kind of weary about it. But, like Coach Raleigh said, I mean, I like the microphone. I'll talk about anything, whether it's good or bad. Makes me look good, makes me look bad. I'll say what's on my mind. It's not always the best thing, but I just have fun, obviously.
So what were some of your experiences? Just give a memory or two of playing in that event.
Right before our U.S. championship game, the Latin American team is sitting outside on a golf cart. And, we're kind of we understand we're going to play a huge game in front of thousands, 20,000 of people. And the Latin American team is just making beats on the golf cart, singing, dancing, throwing sticks. I mean, they were they didn't even know they were going to play a baseball game. And we kind of joined in on them. We were dancing, singing right before we were going to play a U.S. championship game in front of 20,000 people. I mean, what do you think people are doing? That's what we were doing in the Grove. We were singing and dancing on a golf cart, making beats with honestly nothing but our hands.
Who's the best ping pong player on that Little League team?
On ours?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to go myself.
I was going to say, you don't have Mr. Hopko here to tell you. You don't have Mr. Hopko helping you on that one.
Connor was Connor? No.
I think it was Hopko had the serve. Hopko had the serve.
I knew it was one of you two.
Hopko had the serve.
No, it was me. Very, very confident it was me. I like that.
Absolutely.
I like Michael saying it's me too.
Mike was the only one that could keep up with me. The other ones were not.
I did not
I
expect a different answer.
We're gonna have to play. I gotta beat you now.
Yeah, Scotty.
I beat Scotty, so Scotty's no competition.
I didn't expect a different answer, I'd be honest with you. So, all right. So coming out of that experience, talk about now high school, right? Or was it? What was the next step in school ball for you?
It was modified, but that kind of
Modified.
a blur. I think I kind of fast forward to freshman year, getting
Okay.
a call up playing for Coach Raleigh. And
So what was that like? Just as a freshman to say, all right, you're going to be coming up to varsity.
That was amazing. I mean, I was glad for the opportunity. I know Coach Raleigh has seen me growing up, and he liked what he saw, and I got a chance to go play on the varsity level as a freshman. My brother was actually on the team, so that was obviously a great memory playing with him. And just as a freshman, you kind of come in. It's all about soaking in everything. I mean, you're learning things from seniors who have been on the team for 4 years. You're learning what the culture of the team. I mean, I was on Little League, and then you jump onto the big stage. It's a whole lot different. Stakes are a lot higher because you get older. And guys, they kind of expect more out of you.
So talk a little bit about that culture. What was that culture like? Because obviously you're the youngest of the litter at this point, and you're in the big boy pond, right? What was that like?
It was very welcoming. They didn't treat you like you were a little freshman. Obviously I was carrying their bags on to practice, but at practice you fail, and they teach you how to succeed, and they teach you how to fail. Baseball is a game of failure, and you got to accept that. And having those seniors on that team, they taught you that it's okay to fail, but it's never okay to quit.
Now, you two guys came in. Was there anybody else? There was guys in front of you that were part of your team in Little League that were on varsity your freshman year?
That age group was the first group.
So you coming in, and was there any little like, oh, we'll knock these little leaguers down a peg? Was that going on at all?
No, I mean, because I grew up with those guys as well. Joseph, AJ DeSantis, Josh Chandler, Adam Murkowski. Those guys were at our Williamsport games. Those guys were at the barbecues on Saturdays after practice. I mean, it's a community where everybody knows everybody, and there was no knocking anybody. It was all good times.
Yeah, last thing about the Little League, I don't know if everybody understands. You guys also, I think it was the first time ever, not only won the championship, but you got the sportsmanship award.
Yeah.
And I know that your coaches talked about that as much pride in that as there was in winning. So, as a community member, I just thank you guys, because I thought that meant the world. So let's talk now. Okay, come out of COVID last year. Let's talk a little bit about last year. What was that like now to finally get on the field and now compete for a section championship?
Yeah, I mean, like Coach Raleigh said, the year prior to that COVID year when we got all shut down, we were I think that was our strongest team. And I think it was very frustrating losing a state championship, having the motivation to come back and say, we're gonna win a state championship. And in the blink of an eye, it's all shut down. And that put everything into reality. It put everything into perspective. It kind of made you appreciate life a little bit more. It made you get close to the people you love a little bit more. And, adding on to that, the following year when we did get a chance to go out and play, I think it changed the way everybody viewed the little things.
I got to ask both of you and Jack this question. As freshmen, you're going for the high school state championship. The other team had to know that you guys were part of the Little League thing. Was there any of that wonderful sideline chatter coming your way?
There's always chatter.
I mean, there's always teams and comments that are going to be made. So, I mean, we've become used to that now. So
It was more during travel ball.
Yeah,
We ran into that.
Yeah.
A lot of bench clearings.
now being
a lot of
6
talking.
years after.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. 6
Two or
years after.
three, I mean,
and you
real
still
bad ones.
Yeah.
Real bad ones.
Oh.
Yeah, there's been some pretty heated arguments about that stuff. I mean, teams still bring it up 6 years later. So
6 years later.
it's something that we've just become used to, and we can block that out now. So it's there's things you can block out of your head. So I mean, that's something that we've become used to doing.
Right, but part of the game of baseball, right? There is that mental, that chatter, right? That some I played for Dick Testa, and he was really good at it. We were taught to kind of do certain things and try to get underneath players' skin and get them off their game. So there's that mental part, right? So kudos to you guys for not doing that. But Michael, talk a little bit then about now. What's coming on this year? This is your senior year, right? So has that sunk in at all? Like this is going to be your last time on the field?
Not really. I think everything sinks after the season. During football season, you don't really think about it. After football season, you're like, wow, that's it. Same with basketball. So I think this year, I think the thing I'm most excited about is being a senior. I was that freshman once. We're a young team. We got a lot of young guys. And I think what's most special about this year is learning everything from my freshman, sophomore, junior year, and being able to teach it to the younger guys this year. I think a lot of people think we're weak at our pitching staff. I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening. We got one of the best pitchers in Section 4 right here. I know UE has a very dominant staff, but I think a lot of people are not expecting what we got coming for them.
Okay. What do you think? What are some of the things that you put on yourself besides the leadership component, what you're talking about? What are some of the things that you look forward that you think are going to be expectations for you?
Expectations for me, I think just teaching the guys, what I've been taught the last 3 years. Everybody wants to win. I mean, everybody's going to do everything they can to win, but not everybody knows, what it takes to win. So I think they're teaching people our culture and kind of how we go about our things. And, everything is 110%. There's no walk on the field. There's no, when it's time to get serious, it's time to get serious. I think this team is going to have, tremendous success. There's a lot of guys that, haven't played together yet. I know me and Hopko, we grew up playing together since we were 6. And, Bryant, we played 2 years together. So I think it's incredible to have that. And I think we're going to build a bond that is going to be very tight by the end of the year. I think we're going to go through, a bumpy road. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but I think when it comes down to it, we're going to be in a great spot.
What are some of the? I'm going to start with you, Jack. What's the toughest place you got to play this year in high school? What do you think is one of the toughest?
I'd say probably at UE under the lights. So,
Yeah.
We don't have lights. We rarely play under the lights. So if we ever had to play under the lights there, I think we would definitely put up a good fight. It's obviously a hard situation to play in, but when you think about it, it's all the same game. So regardless of the circumstances or the environment, baseball is baseball. So you play your game and you stick to the things that you do regardless of the situations, you should be okay. And I think situations and just staying and being ourselves regardless of the place, we should be okay.
Okay. So, Carp, how about you? Now, I was a pitcher at one point, and for me, there were certain mounds and certain fields I liked, or certain grass that I knew that we were going to get a little more truer hops. There was no such thing as turf back then. So, what are some of the fields that and indoor environments? Talk about you? What about like the hardest place to pitch used to be in Maine Endwell because the wind was always blowing out and it was a short fence. So I can tell you that.
I was just going to bring that up with the mounds. Not everyone has the luxury of a turf mound like we do. And I think my first couple games last year on a dirt mound were a little rough. I know my feet were getting heavy. I was getting stuck. I didn't know what I was doing out there for a minute, but it's going to take a minute to get used to it again this year after pitching on nice, beautiful mounds from RBI to our turf bullpens to our turf mound on the field, warming up there to move to a dirt field with some grass and stuff like that. I think a lot of us, that's somewhat of a disadvantage of having our turf is we don't get those grass hops like we would on a grass field, but we get beautiful hops when we are at our field and we don't want to take advantage of it.
How about, is there any fields that you like, either the way the wind comes or, visibility? Is there anything that you look forward to, like your best field you like besides maybe home? And then is there any places you don't really want to?
I'm going to agree with Jack. Under the lights is probably going to be tough. We don't play under the lights a lot. We don't have lights at our field. I think it's going to be playing under the lights is going to be a different feel. Yeah. Same game though, like he said.
Okay. How about you, Michael? Any places you just can't wait to go play there, or any places that you're like, that's not my favorite field?
I can't wait to go play under the lights at you. I think that's probably one of my favorite games of the year. A lot of people show up. Not a lot of people have lights. So you get a big packed-in crowd, Maine Endwell versus UE. It's a rivalry that's going on for years, and I think I'm most excited for that.
Okay. Now, I'd ask Carp, too, about him playing sport. Now, I know both you and Jack both came off a sectional championship in basketball, right? So you won Section 4s, and then you went on in states, which was the first time we've done that at Maine Endwell in a long time for the boys' side. And I know that you were a football player. You won, because we did this, talked about this.
That's right.
This
I was going to
end
say
of the
last
summer.
time I was in here, we manifested the state championship.
We talked about, and that was a sectional championship, and then on to the state. So talk a little bit. I'm going to ask Jack first. Talk a little bit about success in other sports and how it translates.
Yeah, I think success comes with the bonds you make with the team. So, a lot of guys play multiple sports that are on our team now. So the bonds that we've developed through the other sports has brought us success. And I think continuing to play with those guys is going to be something that'll benefit us this year. And we put in the work we need to, and we should have a pretty successful season. So.
Yeah, because you guys are not like bit players. You have major roles on those teams, and this is Class B football player at state of the year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to be subtle like Coach about that? You want me to say it?
You
All
can
right,
say it.
I'll say it. All right. So so it's not a joke. You guys do this. So talk a little bit, Michael. So now you play for Coach Gallagher, then you play for Coach Ocker. Have success at both. What kind of things do you pick up from those guys that translates over to baseball now?
Yeah, I think it's a common theme. Coach Gallagher, Coach Ocker, Coach Raleigh, they all have one thing in common. They know how to, teach leadership. And I think that's where it starts. If you can teach guys to be leaders and not, kind of dictators, you'll get a team that kind of supports you. And I think, like I said, with all three of the coaches, there's a common theme of everybody buys into what they're selling. You're not going to find a kid on the team that says, "Oh, I'm not playing today. Well, I'm not going to go to practice tomorrow and try." Everybody shows up to practice. Everybody puts in 110% because they know when their number gets called, they got to do it for the guy next to them. And honestly, the worst thing is losing for a coach that you buy in so much for. And I think that's what every sport I played for, football, basketball, baseball, nobody wants to lose for the coach. And that makes them work harder at practice. That makes them kind of want to do more outside of practice. And you kind of build this relationship where at the beginning of the year, you'll get 4 or 5 guys that work out after practice. And then the middle of the year, you get 10 to 15 guys that want to work out after practice. Then the end of the year, you get a full weight room with guys that are like, if you're going to do it, then I have to do it. And that's kind of what builds, a successful program. And that's what Maine Endwell is.
You know what? You bring up a good point, Matt. I want to ask you about this. So talk a little bit about the training staff, the conditioning staff, because that's become such a big part of high school sports now. You used to have to go like off-site to to kind of get on your own, and now a lot of schools provide that. Talk a little bit about some of the support that you guys have at Maine Endwell.
Well, Josh Hodges and Deb, our trainer, they're two of the best people you're going to find. I mean, they're always putting themselves out there for you to do the extra things. I've known Josh for a long time. I know how dedicated he was, and no matter what he's doing. A couple of years ago, he came to me and said, "Hey, I went down to Florida and I took a class down there on arm care." And I was like, "Wow, he can come here." And he's talking to me about how he's going to try to get our players stronger and better and stuff like that. And Deb has been in Major League Baseball for her whole life. I mean, for her to go to high school baseball is kind of a letdown, right? I mean, she used to work with the New York Mets. She's in charge of Johan Santana's throwing program. I mean, this girl she knows throwing better than I do. She's more educated than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have people like that, part of your staff, Maine Endwell is obviously very lucky. But you're right, this game's changing. If it used to be, you go find a place to go work out and go to practice. And I know towards the end of my career, it's like, I heard someone say today, like, I'm going to go to the weight room at 5:30 in the morning because I just don't have time. And after these kids got a busy schedule, practice, schoolwork. So, but the people that want to get better find a place to get it because it makes a huge difference in their game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are helping to do that. There's resources now,
right?
That we didn't really have in the old days. So, all right, let's have a little fun. So I'm going to ask you guys a little fun question, and then you guys can ask each other a little question. So let me start. I'm going to ask you, Matt, you're going to the electric chair. You get one meal. What's your favorite meal?
I'm going to go Mexican.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, be specific.
Just anything. I love Mexican, but it's actually funny you just said it because
With the electric chair?
It's Kate's birthday today, and I said, "Hey, you want Moses?" And I'd rather go, when I say that, like a real Mexican restaurant where it's authentic. But I'm like, "Hey, it's your birthday. You want to go to Moses?" I knew it'd say yes. So I'm like, "Yes, I just feel like some Mexican tonight." So it's like, it's not quite, like the place on Washington Ave. I love Grandma's. I love that place. I love that place. So, I'd probably just say that would be it. I mean, you can never beat a steak, that's for sure. But I definitely would have to, I like to eat, Sonny.
All right,
so
baby.
you give me a hot dog and a cheeseburger, and I'll be plenty.
There we go.
Good.
All right, so we're gonna go. Let's go with you, Bryant. All right, you're not going the electric chair. You guys just won the sectional championship. You got the ability to go anywhere and have a great meal. What kind of meal do you want to have?
Anywhere, a great meal. Are you talking around here or
No, it's anywhere.
anywhere?
Wow.
I'm gonna have to stick around here. I'm gonna have to go with Texas Roadhouse.
All right,
Get some of the rolls with the butter on there.
oh, that's pretty good.
Best steak meal.
What's your steak? What's your steak of choice?
Steak of choice. Oh, probably sirloin.
All right, you pick your own?
Oh, do I? No. I
Okay,
just
all
go
right,
off the
okay.
menu.
See, we're gonna get specific, man. All right, Jack.
Yep.
Same question.
I think, we're going tonight. I think that might have been my Texas de Brazil and the Syracuse Mall. They bring out all different types of meats on little rods. So
They bring out the sticks.
Yeah.
Right?
I've never been to one of
exactly,
those.
yeah.
These guys been like
Yeah.
10 times. I've never been to one of those.
I think that'd be
You
my
guys come tonight?
choice.
Yeah.
So they bring out what? They bring out.
Literally any they bring out lamb, chicken, bacon wrapped fillets. All sorts of stuff. They got a salad bar to start, and then
That's
They
a
literally
carnivore.
Stay away
right
from
there,
that. Just
Yeah.
save it
Yeah,
for the
save
steak.
your appetite.
Don't eat with the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Salad interferes, man.
Yeah, you gotta leave meat.
yeah.
And then when you're done, you just put your fork and knife over the plate, and then they stop, or no?
They have a card, right? I think it's
Okay.
your coaster. You flip your coaster over, and then that's
No
when you get
mas.
more. Yeah,
It's like Roberto doing no
yeah,
mas.
I don't think
All
I'll be
right.
doing that tonight. Though. I think I'll be doing.
I'll throw AJ Samson on the bus. He used to. He would go there. He would probably eat for an hour,
Yeah.
like just straight.
Yeah.
He'd go to the bathroom. He'd come back, eat for a half hour,
Yeah.
go to the bathroom, come back. We'd be there like 4 hours. AJ, you done? No, I'm still going. I'm not tapping out yet.
So there the waiter goes, okay, no mas.
Yeah.
No mas, yeah.
The waiter would shut it
Yeah.
down.
All right, Michael, where about yourself?
Jeez, I honestly don't even know. After a sectional championship,
Or let's say it's a Friday night. You got all the time in the world. You're done. You got nothing on your schedule. You got to eat. What's your favorite meal?
all the time in the world. Jeez, yeah, 20 times. I think big. I like barbecue. I like barbecue stuff. If we were to win a championship, I think the greatest thing would be, somebody smoking some ribs or kind of getting the team together and pulled pork. I would do anything.
Yeah, I
Oh my
some
god,
ribs
you got
from
the
that.
best smoked
Yeah.
ribs in the world.
All right. Okay. I'll give you one more question, then you guys can ask each other a good question. So, Jack, you can go anywhere in the world for a week, all expenses paid. Where would you go?
I would say probably Greece. Just like the views you see online, you're like, wow, I want to go. Like the houses on the side of the hills and stuff. I would definitely stay in one of those houses and just be able to walk like 5 houses away and be in the ocean. So I would say probably that, just for the views and the ocean scenario. So that would be my dream vacation.
All right, Carp, where are you going?
I'm gonna say back to the Bahamas.
The
I've been there
Bahamas.
once, but it was the best experience of my life. I think I was 13 with my mom. We went on a Disney cruise, and that was amazing. So I'd go back there.
So, what was it about Bahamas you like?
Oh my gosh, the water was crystal clear. It was warm, nice, smooth, sandy beaches. It was great. Hotels, views, everything.
No babes on the nothing like
Well,
that.
I was 13 at the time, but I'm sure.
So they
I
all
enjoy
look good.
some now.
13. All right, Michael, how about you?
Head out to Punta Cana in Dominican Republic. I love that place. Been there once. I know for sure that we're going again this year. Just a great time.
All right. How about you, Matt? How about you, Coach?
It's a good question. If I want to go somewhere I've never been. So I guess I wouldn't know why, but I'd like to go to somewhere warm. I've been to Hawaii and I've been to Alaska, and I would go back to both those places. I played ball in both of those places, and Alaska is one of the most beautiful places you ever go. I don't know if a lot of people like going to Alaska. It's a little cold, so I'd take a Greece, somewhere I've never been, something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, you get to ask Coach one question.
Jeez.
Keep it clean.
What percentage of records that you hold are actually true? The ones that you tell us.
100% true. I occasionally tell them that I hit about. Well, I did hit about 420 in
That makes sense true because we did.
That's
Yeah.
true.
He was telling
But
us a
it
story.
gets to 480 or something. As they start bugging me, I'll say 460, 480. Yeah, so it gets long.
Like the fish gets bigger.
The fish gets right. Yeah.
Size
Yeah.
35 bat in 7th grade.
Yeah.
No, 34. My dad bought me one bat, and I used it for 8 years. So I didn't get a new bat every year like you guys do. So
Wait.
So
that wasn't subtle. Just so that wasn't
yeah, that was a jab at that, right? So no, I bust on these guys. When they say things, and I say, "Well, I've done that, much better than when you were your age." So I get a bust on them. I keep them honest, but I may fib a little bit with some of the numbers. But you're talking like 1%, Jack. Just so you know.
Okay, you want to ask Jack a question?
That's a good question there. That's No, I'm good right there. I don't want to put Jack on the spot.
All right,
Okay,
we'll go.
Brian, you get to ask anybody.
Okay.
You get to ask anybody.
Oh,
else
anybody?
here, man. It's all free reign. You can ask your
I'll ask,
teammate.
I'll ask Mike right
Oh
here.
boy.
I say my thought there was used to ask this in elementary school. You're going to a private island. You got a house. You got your whole island to yourself. Who are you bringing and what are you bringing?
Who am I bringing and what am I
Who
bringing?
are you bringing and what are you bringing?
Who am I
That's a
bringing?
great question card.
I gotta bring. Jeez.
You can bring anyone in the world.
Celebrities,
Celebrities,
the
anyone.
right girlfriend. Right
I was
there.
gonna say.
You should put one.
It's gotta be
There's
a
a
girl.
lot of girlfriends. So right now,
Oh,
Mike's got a lot of
he
girlfriends.
says one girl.
What am I bringing?
Is this live? Is this live?
This is live.
This is live. This is. You're not be going to steak
Texas
tonight.
Rangers up.
Better say one of your best friends now. I just saved you.
Yeah, I know. Who am I bringing?
Say your mom. It'd be so sweet.
That would be sweet. That would be sweet.
No, don't
But
listen to
I
you.
will-
You answer the question.
I'm trying to.
You answer the question. You gotta live and die by yourself, man. Go ahead.
I honestly don't know who I bring. That is a great question.
There's no limit. You can bring as many people as you want.
I can bring as many people as I
I
want.
mean, I asked who you bring. I didn't say you got to bring one person.
Oh, there you go, Bear.
Oh my god. Dude, I'm stumped because I'm just got so many names going through my head right now. And they're the weirdest names ever. Like I bring. Jeez. I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Jack that question. What is Jack got on that question? Do you have anybody?
Well, I would have to think I'd have to bring someone smart and athletic so that they can do something.
Can be past or present. Can I bring someone back from the dead?
Yeah, anyone.
All right.
Think about it. They gotta be smart and they gotta be athletic. They gotta be able to help you
Or
survive.
rich.
I mean, I don't know where this one person came from.
Well, they wouldn't have access to their money. They're stuck on the desert
I
island.
was stuck on it. I didn't know you were stuck. I thought you were going to visit an island.
This is some deep thought.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
some
deep
deep
thought.
thought. This is not. We're not going to Bahamas or Dominican Republic right now. We're on Bear Gillis. We're on what is it? Naked and Afraid, right?
Right.
So, all right. So, Michael, you get to ask anybody a question.
Past or present, Dr. Spera, who are you bringing to a dinner?
Who am I bringing to a dinner?
Yep.
I can bring anybody.
Past or present, yeah.
Anybody on the
Anybody on the
world.
planet that's
Oh, so they could be alive or dead. Doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Anyway,
All right. I would probably bring George Washington
okay.
Wow.
because I would just want to hear about what things were like when the country was a mess and all the things that he had to deal with as president, as a general, as troops with no shoes on their feet, just the whole thing. I would just want that would be it.
Okay.
But if I had to pick someone alive, there's only one answer that works, right, Matt? It's my wife, right?
That's right.
It's like
Right.
But since you opened the category,
Yeah.
she would be okay.
What sport person would you ask?
She would be okay. What sport?
Yeah,
person?
like a
Roberto
famous
Clemente.
sport. You know.
Roberto Clemente.
No, really.
Oh, yeah.
Not even a basketball. What?
He's my
Most people don't know Sonny was also. Were you drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays?
Brewers.
Brewers. Okay, well.
That's okay.
You don't talk about yourself.
Hey, I'm the host.
You're
You
the host.
guys are
but,
supposed to
you know,
talk.
you played some big time basketball. A heck of an athlete back in your day. Has been, has came on board at Maine Endwell to help with the JV program, and I know Coach Bennett just loves when he's there. He's taking the reins as kind of being the bullpen guy.
That's
Has a
fun.
great analysis of what he's doing, and I know. And there's days you're not there. I think Bobby gets a little stumped sometimes. So we appreciate what he's done for Maine Endwell. But as I tell people, when Sonny first came on board, the coach at Maine Endwell was like, "Sonny's a basketball player." And I said, "Yeah, he is, but Sonny can coach, right?
Well, thanks.
You can coach. You can coach any sport, right? I'll take anybody that knows how to connect with a kid and make him get better. And obviously, they probably didn't know you had a background in baseball anyway. So you've had that your whole life. So you just had to reconnect with it. You know, it's changed a little bit, but it hasn't changed that much. But we're lucky to have someone like Sonny in the baseball program right now.
Well, thank you. So with that, let's let Matt ask one last question. Free reign. Any of your players?
Good. You know, are you going to do what it takes to get? Are we going to win a state title this year? I guess that's a dumb question. It's not a dumb question, but are you guys going to put everything into what we need to do to accomplish that goal? And I think it actually starts with you three. There's other people that are have big roles this year, but if you guys do all the little things, we could surprise some people this year. Are you willing?
Absolutely.
Are you willing to commit all the way?
Absolutely.
Yes,
I think
100%.
And I know that I knew that answer. So
that's the ham and egg story, right?
yeah.
Right? You know, the ham and egg. And the ham and eggs, right? You guys heard this before, I hope.
Yep.
Ham and eggs. In the ham and egg story, the chicken's involved, but the pig is committed.
Right.
So coach is asking, you guys going to be pigs? You guys going to be chickens?
Right.
Right?
That's right.
Pigs all the way.
I mean, I
Pigs
think
all the way. I just heard it.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. You can catch this. We did it live. It'll be on tape and might be on some TV programs. So
Thank you for having us.
thanks for having us. Good luck this year, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sonny.